Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. I have a fantastic show tonight of great personal interest to me. I grew up on the Iron Range in a little town called Virginia, Minnesota. When I was about 10 years old or so, in the mid-'60s, I became aware of a rock and roll band in our town, soon to be called Tomorrow's Children. While the airwaves were filled with the Beatles, Rolling Stones, the Animals, and others, our town of under 10,000 had its own rock band. To make it even more interesting, the band used the abandoned Methodist church where both my guest Walt Rabideau and I and our families belonged as their rehearsal hall as they built a new church on Silver Lake. It's an incredible story because back at the time there was people in town that thought this was damn near a satanic move. Long hairs and a rock and roll band in the Methodist church. Anyway, of course, that was very attractive to the young Paul. My guest, Walt, and a few others of his band ended up in California where they hooked up with psychedelic and almost a new age guru named Stephen Gaskin. They took off in a caravan around the country before they founded The Farm, which the Wall Street Journal called the General Motors of the American Commune System. This story also includes a performance by my guest at Stonehenge and other places. But let's get to it. I want to warmly welcome from his home in Petaluma, California, 1965 Roosevelt High School graduate, Walt Rabideau. Walt, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm real good. Thanks. Yeah, doing fine.
Well, you and I have spoken on the phone a few times. We've never met in person. And I'm trying to remember if I ever had the chance to see your band when you were performing at dances in Virginia, Minnesota. But tell us a little bit about the beginnings of your first band, the Wildermen, that morphed into Tomorrow's Children.
Well, I met David Chalmers, the drummer. He was a year younger than me, but an interesting fact is that we were born on the same day in the same hospital, delivered by the same doctor, only a year apart. So we ended up getting pretty aligned and started a band in high school called the Wildermen. And what was interesting about that band, we had not a keyboardist, but he played an accordion, and it was called a Cordovox.
Cordovox, of course.
And it had a zillion tubes, and it was our first gig, and we were getting all practiced up, and we were so excited. And just before the gig was going to go on, one of his tubes went out and his whole rig went out. So we had to call the person that owned the local, you probably remember who that was, a electronics store. Mm-hmm. He had to come down, open the store, find the tube. We bought the tube and just made the gig. So that was the Wildermen.
The show must go on, right?
Yeah, the show must go on. But so that was my first initiation into playing with a rock band, and my collaboration with David Chalmers.
Now, what kind of music were you guys listening to back then?
Everything that was on the radio, basically.
Which was everything. I mean, I remember I grew up within earshot of WEBC, and you think back on it, Walt. You could turn on an afternoon or an evening of WEBC and hear the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, the Supremes, Stevie Wonder, the Animals.
Right.
It was the kind of golden age of radio and rock and roll in a way.
It certainly was. So there was all that material to draw from. I mean, all we did was cover tunes,
Mm-hmm.
Basically. So
now, how did it morph into Tomorrow's Children, the band I was aware of?
Well, I went to Florida on a misguided mission. I was going to play music down in Miami, and I went to school basically to get a 1A to stay out of the draft. But I was so homesick for my hometown and everything. I went home at Christmas time, and David Chalmers, the drummer, had already started another group called the Druids, and he was growing his hair long and everything, and all this shit was happening. I go, wow. And I realized I was missing something. I went back to Florida, finished up, my schooling, and that semester, and went back. And me coming back into Virginia meant that that was the end of the Druids. That was the band that David played in. And then we just put together Tomorrow's Children, and I just can't remember. We just kind of clicked and started putting tunes, cover tunes together, but the times just seemed to be just ripe for us. I don't know, it was just perfect, the timing. Music was really happening in Virginia. For the Iron Range, it was really surprising, but all the bands went through there. And I saw, Duane Eddy and, these troops, the Martha and Vandellas, and all these things were going on. So, and they would pack these National Guard armories. So once we got into it, we had a decent sound, and we started playing these National Guard armories all over the Iron Range, Grand Rapids, Cloquet, Hibbing, Virginia. And we'd pack about 1,000 kids into those places. So it was pretty magical, actually.
Well, and it's, the young Bob Dylan over 20 miles west of us, of course, had his band, the Golden Chords, and they were playing the armories, rocking the armories as well. So it was a fertile ground for rock and rollers and rock and roll fans. So who had the great idea to rent out the abandoned Methodist church to rehearse in?
Yeah, I don't remember. We're going over 50 years now, so I don't think we even rented it. I think they just let us use it.
Right.
In my recollection, there was nothing there. We set up on the altar like it was a stage.
Where I was baptized, by the way. I love that story, Walt. So tell us, we've got a little time left before we hear one of your singles. So you guys actually put out some 45 RPM singles back then.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Now tell us about how that came about.
Well, one of the band members in the original incarnation of Tomorrow's Children was from Milwaukee, and his family had connections with someone that owned a recording studio. So we went to Milwaukee and we recorded, it was a cover of the Young Rascals in a midnight hour. Or they had done it,
right.
Their version of it.
The Wilson Pickett tune, yeah.
Yeah, we just copied it, basically, and WEBC picked it up and started playing it like crazy, and ended up putting it at number one. And I knew it really wasn't number one against the Beatles and the Stones and stuff like that.
Sure.
But they wanted us in their corral so they could come out and do the dances. They would make a cut.
Yeah.
They would send a DJ to the armory where we were playing, and they would advertise us all week and this and that. So it was really it was a great thing. So basically, Midnight Hour was just a vehicle for us to get out, and we were local. We didn't get that far. We did some gigs like in Ironwood, Michigan, and Superior, and a few things like that, but mostly the Iron Range. What
can you remember what you guys were getting paid back then? Maybe a couple $100 a night or something?
Oh no, it was like, I think our fee was $125.
Okay.
And then sometimes we'd get a little bit more, but that was about max. That's about all we could get was $125.
Now, you guys, I remember you had some really nice equipment, because back then, when, like myself as a young budding rock and roller, you got your first instrument in Sears catalog. You got a harmony guitar, and then you wanted an electric guitar, so you went to the Montgomery Ward's catalog and got an Airline. But you guys had some nice amps and guitars back then in your time.
Yeah, we did. Fortunately, my mother bought me my first electric guitar, a Fender Stratocaster, and we got it down at B-Sharp Music. And so B-Sharp in Minneapolis, in Central Avenue there, was where everybody went. So, after we really got going, Jim Lopez, he gave us some great deals, so along with everybody else.
Well, he was the one that when the Beatles came to Met Stadium in 1965, he gave George Harrison a Rickenbacker 12-string, but didn't give John Lennon one. I think John was PO'd for years and years about that. But yeah, and those were such beautiful guitars. And I believe you played one as well. You had a Rickenbacker at one time.
I had a Rickenbacker. Well, yeah, I had to have a Rickenbacker because that's, the English bands were wearing, John Lennon had one. And they used to wear them kind of high up,
Sure.
I tried doing that, but it was pretty uncomfortable. But yeah, I definitely had a Rickenbacker.
Well, we've got my guest, my hometown buddy and fellow rock and roller and Methodist, Walt Rabideau, on. And we're going to listen to a single that his band, Tomorrow's Children, put out. And then we'll have, it's called In the Midnight Hour, the old Wilson Pickett tune. They copied the Rascals version, and we've got Walt on for the whole show tonight on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metz. I want to give a shout out to the Divas, a great female trio up on the Iron Range, based out of Virginia, Minnesota, my hometown, my guest hometown, that cut that beautiful bumper music for me. Walt Rabideau, so how long were the Tomorrow's Children together, and then when did you guys move out to California?
I think we were together about 3 years, and it was the summer of 1968 that David and I finally were drawn to San Francisco. It was like a magnet with everything that was going on, and we'd kind of, and we're at the end of our road there with the Tomorrow's Children. So, the summer of '68 we went out there.
The summer of love.
Yeah. Well, we missed the summer of love. That was supposedly 1967.
Right. That was the year before.
So I really regretted that, because what was happening was our original bandman went out to California, and he was sending me back letters saying, well, tonight I'm going to see the Grateful Dead, Big Brother and the Holler Company, and Quicksilver, and then tomorrow I'm going to see B.B. King, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going nuts, And then that night I'll be playing a gym in, I think, Cherry, Minnesota, like a nice little country school gymnasium, and I was just going crazy. So we just informed David and I were on just another path, and we informed the other two band members that we're going to California. So we disbanded the band and went to join the the psychedelic revolution that was going on in San Francisco.
That's phenomenal. Of course, Cherry, Minnesota, is where Gus Hall, the perennial presidential candidate for the Communist Party, came from. So let's give a little historical background there. So tell us about that first weekend you and Chalmers showed up in San Francisco.
Boy. Well, we split up. We already had friends from Virginia. Believe it or not, there was several people from Virginia already had made the move ahead of us, so we were kind of drowned out for that. So I went off and stayed with my the bandman that we had, and David stayed with some other friends. So we basically, in those days, there was no email, no phones, and nothing. So we pretty much got out of touch with each other for a period. And then came back together, but we weren't playing music together out there. I was just so in awe of all the bands and everything, that's mostly what I did.
So who did you get a chance to see?
Just about everybody that was at the Fillmore, Bill Graham was bringing everybody in, so I got, Led Zeppelin, The Who and stuff, but I was really into Santana. I would, go early so I could stand right in front of the stage where he was. He was just a young kid.
Right.
And so those are the ones. The Grateful Dead and stuff really stand out to me. But when I got to San Francisco in the summer of '68, every weekend in Golden Gate Park there was a free concert, and that was amazing because that's where I got to see Quicksilver, Messenger Service, and Janis Joplin, the Big Brother and the Holding Company. Everybody was at their peak,
Right.
And then of course I saw Hendrix at Winterland, and just what everybody was coming through there,
Now was LSD still legal in '68?
It was never legal. Still, I don't think it is. No, it was not legal.
No,
totally illegal.
It was. Totally. It was legal for a while.
Okay. Well, anyway, they put the clampers on that, but definitely that was what was going on at the time. Yeah.
So
a lot of mind expansion.
Right. So now, how did you then hook up with? Would it be right to call him a psychedelic guru, Stephen Gaskin?
That's pretty much. At the time, because of the psychedelic drugs, people were suddenly interested in like Eastern religion and all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
So gurus were flying in from India and all over, and people were joining Hare Krishna, and they were doing Yogananda, and they were doing Hatha Yoga, and all this stuff. And I was kind of bouncing around. I had become a true spiritual seeker, and I just, I was just like everybody else at the time, or most people. And the only one that made sense to me, as far as like speaking about the psychedelic experience, who really knew about it, was this guy Stephen Gaskin, and he had been a semantics teacher at San Francisco State. And a super brilliant guy, but really knew how to unravel the psychedelic experience and what was going on, and started having these meetings on Monday night class in a place called the Family Dog, where the Grateful Dead played. It was a dance hall. So every Monday night, and I got up to like 1,500 people that were attending every week, and he would run these meetings and question and answer, and just discussing the psychedelic state of mind and everything, And then he got these all around the country. He started getting these invitations to speak at colleges. He started getting famous and started getting invited to colleges and churches throughout the country. And he said, I'm going to dismiss the class, and I'm going to go out. He had a school bus that he lived in, and he says, I'm going to go out and on the speaking tour. And they said, "Oh, Stephen, can we come with you?" And he says, "Okay, well, if you can get a bus or a truck or whatever to live in, you can follow me. You have to be self-sustaining and no alcohol or guns and the usual stuff that we've all been kind of aspiring to." So that lasted. I was on that. It was 11,500 miles. We were on the road for 3.5 months, and got back to San Francisco. And everybody said, well, I think now is the time to not just melt back into the city, but to go out and actually, start a community, something that, we've been talking about forever. And so the core of the caravan went back into the middle of the country, found land in Tennessee, south of Nashville, about 70 miles. 75 miles, and it was $70 an acre for the land. So we just started a community and started from basically nothing. There was a house and a barn on the property, and we got through that first year with living in army tents that we bought, just to get protected. But at the same time, the music was starting to come alive, but it was only acoustic music. And the first band that we started, before it was even named the Farm Band, we just played around with some acoustic instruments and said, we're never going to be electric. We're going to just be real, pure and just acoustic
wooden
stuff.
music.
And then this guy comes from Franklin, from Franklin, Tennessee, moves onto the farm, and he's got 2 amps and 2 guitars. And so that was the beginning of that. And David cobbled together a drum set, and the musicians that played in this band, we'd all had experience playing before. The bass player and the keyboardist had been in bands in San Francisco, and David and I had been in bands and stuff. So the farm band formed, and then Stephen, he had the idea of because he liked to speak. That was his main thing, was speaking. Well, the band, we would go out on the road together, and then we would gather a crowd. Then he would speak, and then we would play some more. And we had our own PA system. We were a completely self-contained unit. And we didn't charge money, so our motto was, this band always plays for free. So the whole time that we did our thing, until we changed our name later to the NRC, we worked outside of the music industry. But we had our own records. We had our own record company and mail order, and we just kind of did our own thing.
Oh, bless you guys. Walt Rabideau, let's listen a little bit music by the Farm Band. We've got Walt Rabideau, guitar player, and Cool Cat. We need to hear more about the commune and life after the Farm Band with the NRC and more. Got Walt on for 2 more sets on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. My guest for the whole show tonight, spiritual seeker, musician, former Methodist, and Iron Range native Walt Rabideau. We got done with the end of the last set on the radio, Wall of Power Radio Hour, talking about Walt and Stephen Gaskin, the leader and how they formed this commune south of Nashville, Tennessee. So it was $70 an acre. How many acres were you folks able to buy at that time, Walt?
We bought 1,000 acres initially. And then we bought the additional 750 acres. It was more money. It wasn't 70 anymore. I can't remember. It was 1,500 or something. But anyway, we ended up with a total of 1,750 acres.
Oh, I bet some of those original Tennesseans didn't quite know what to think when all the long hairs descended south of Nashville there. But how many people started at that commune? What was the population?
It started with 250 people, I would say, right around there.
And so tell us, so you had tents, and then you started just to create your own village. And so tell us about that.
Well, the first winter we had to, it gets pretty cold down there in Tennessee, believe it or not. So we bought a bunch of Army tents from the Army, used Army tents, and that was how we spent our first winter. And then just started building houses, and we tried to be, as resourceful as we can. We went out and we'd tear down a barn or something locally, come back and reuse the wood. We got in partnership with one of our neighbors who had an old sawmill, and he got the sawmill working, and we helped run the sawmill, and then we got to take Tennessee oak, back home to build the community. And then as time went on, we built a print shop and started putting out our own books on different aspects of what we were doing, and vegetarian cookbook and a book on midwifery, and different things like that in Stephen's books, and boy, there's so much. We started a soy dairy. We were the first Caucasians to produce soy tofu.
Wow.
At a large level. So we were complete vegetarians. So for our protein, we really did rely a lot on soybeans. So we had soy milk and tofu that we made there. And then we grew our own vegetables, and we had a canning and freezing operation, so we could keep have stuff all year round. So we just basically, then we had, of course, we were young, so we started having babies and stuff. So
sure.
we had a whole midwifery crew. My wife was a midwife, and just all the babies were born, right at home. And so then we ended up, as the years went on, it just kept growing, and as our needs went, so we had to build a clinic, and we had 2 doctors, and these are doctors that could have been out making mega bucks out in the world, but they had devoted their time to the community. So what was really interesting about it all, when you put this many people together, that somebody's going to step up and know something about something.
Yeah, right.
And we had a lot of really good, smart people. So we had people that, they had lawyers, and we had doctors, and then we had people that knew how to do print shop and how to do editing, and then we had a motor pool, because we had to keep so people that knew about vehicles and keeping everything running. We had a motor pool, and then we also had a lot of the way we had to make money was we had to go out, like any family, go out and earn money, because the ideal was that we were going to be self-sufficient, but in reality, there's so many needs,
sure,
monetarily wise. So we started a wood shop, and then anybody that was a carpenter. So we had some really good lead carpenters and architects and designers. It was pretty amazing. So basically, we brought money home to the basic budget. It was a one for all for one, real communal living, and so when the farm band wasn't banding, we were the paint crew, and we would go out locally and paint houses and stuff. And then when we would come back, we would give all our money to the bank lady, and so it really was that. But what we used to do was we would take a paint job. And say it's a 5-day paint job, and we would just bust tail and work really hard to try to get it done in like 3 days, so we could have two days for the band. It's not like we were the elite band, and we didn't have to do anything else. You know what I mean? We were just like everybody else.
Sure.
But but at the same time, very grateful to have had that opportunity. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but
there was
just a lot going on.
It's so fascinating to me, because it's really you guys lived the hippie dream.
Yeah, we did.
This was like back to nature, back to the land. Boy, so incredible. When you and I were talking a few days ago, setting up this interview, Walt, you said one of the sons of one of the families that grew up on the farm, lived on the farm, was the guy that invented the Firefox search engine.
Yeah, I don't know if he invented it, but he was in on the ground floor. His name is Asa Dotzler, if you look it up. But he was at the ground floor of it, whether he started it or. But he was at the very beginning of it. Yes.
Well, then you read these stories about Steve Jobs, and started Microsoft after long nights coming down off LSD, listening to Grateful Dead tapes, and you just go, that psychedelic energy. The best part of it really led to some great things.
Yes.
What
changed the world?
Yeah, changed the world. Now, is the farm still active?
Yes, the farm is still active. In 1984-85, it made a transition to a collective, from communal living, from a commune, to a collective where people paid a certain amount of money each month to live there, where they own their house, but they don't own the land it's on. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a unique setup. And there's 150 people still living there. And there's the original generation. I have friends that are there. And then we call the second gen, which is their kids, And so it's changing and growing at its own pace, but it's still there.
Now, and I'm assuming they're still selling goods, products, and things like that to keep the enterprise going.
Down there, I'm not sure. I think that part of it, I think everybody's kind of on their own now.
Okay.
As far as like the community, the land has been paid for. We had a food company called Farm Foods, and towards the end of the farm's run, it got bought out by Barasini Chocolates in New York. And so that was enough money to pay off the farm. So the farm's paid for, so it's basically just running expenses there.
Wow. It'd be interesting to know what that piece of property is worth in
yeah, I know.
2020 values, right? Well, it's interesting that you got involved with it because, as you know, you and I growing up in Virginia, Minnesota on the Iron Range, that was is some of the places where the first electrical co-ops started, some of the first co-ops in the late 20s and early 30s with our good fellow Finns and socialists that got all those cool communal things going. So you were just kind of in a way transferring that energy down to a bunch of long hairs down in Tennessee. Bless you. Now, there must have been hippies from around the country that just pass a through, stop by to say hello, I'd imagine, right?
Oh yeah, we had all kinds of people coming. We had a gate and a gatehouse, and then we always, we had to have a crew of people ready to do tours because the locals were really interested in what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
And so we did tours, and then we had people that come, and that people would say, well, I think I want to live here, and then we'd say, well, you better, we call it soaking. You stay for a while, make sure this is what you want,
right?
Because it's not like on the outs, what you're probably used to. So we did get a lot of people that way, but also we got people by going out and doing these concerts, and we ended up getting people that were really big part of the community, and also like we had the we got the Air to Midas muffler, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his money, his dividend checks or stock checks, they just went right to buy food,
and good food.
And then we also had people that came from wealthy family. We had a friend that gave $100,000 inheritance, So we got money that way too,
Wow.
Through inheritances, and because it was all for one for all, So
now, when there was conflicts between families, between members, how did you resolve that?
Well, let's see. Peacefully, for one thing. We mostly just talk things out, We had as far as running the community, we experimented with different forms of self-government. We had a board of directors and different thing, but it was usually a crew of people that would help sort out any of the problems that were coming up at the farm, you know. And that's just what we do, just try to work it out on a fair basis, you know, as we could.
Now, boy, this is just so fascinating to me. So the members of the farm band, those were all Virginia, Minnesota guys?
No, me and David were from Virginia, but we had friends that were, the cheerleader from our high school lived there, and her friend, and the guy that went out to California originally, our band guy, he was there. So, but it was only David and I that were in the band. The other people were from other parts of the country.
Did you have? I would have loved to hear the conversation that the cheerleaders' parents had after they realized their daughter ran off to hang out with the rockers down at the commune.
I tell you though, her mother and my mother were very accepting. I mean, some parents weren't.
Right.
Some parents just want to disown their kids. They were just horrified. But my mother and her mother were not like that. And one trip, they both came down from Virginia to stay on the farm, and a couple that had lived in a bus vacated their bus. Had the carpet on the ceiling and everything, a real hippie bus. Yeah. And my mom and her mom stayed in the bus right down by Babbling Creek. Had to kind of cross a little creek to get to the bus.
That's
so
beautiful.
they were real troopers, I'll tell you.
God bless them. We've got Walt Rabideau on. We're going to listen to another track by his band, the Farm Band, and we got one more set with my good friend, and we're going to talk about how he ended up playing at Stonehenge. Spinal Tap. Welcome back to the last set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. We just listened to a song by NRC, formerly the Farm Band. We have the lead guitarist and songwriter on the phone with us for the whole show tonight, Mr. Walt Rabideau. So, Walt, tell us, how did the Farm Band morph into NRC?
Well, at the time, the nuclear industry was starting to rear its ugly head, and people were getting concerned, and we took the Farm Band, all the same members, and decided to just take on the industry. So we changed our name to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and we had a brilliant songwriter, Thomas Dotzler, who wrote a bunch of tunes, and we went the art rock, theater rock route, And when we performed, we would wear these uniforms that were sewed by somebody on the farm out of silver lame, we actually started to. Well, no, here's what happened. We built our own studio on the farm, an 8-track studio on the farm, and recorded all these original tunes under the NRC name, and the name of the album is Reactor, and so that's one of the tunes you'll be hearing. Anyway, we started getting picked up by the media, and Kurt Loder really liked us from Rolling Stone, and we started getting invited to play at anti-nuke rallies, and there was these people from Muse, musicians. I can't remember what I stand for.
Right.
But the Muse, and Bonnie Raitt was big in that, and Jackson Browne and stuff like that. So we ended up starting to do some concerts with them, and we did a concert up in North Dakota. Where they wanted to mine uranium on Indian land, and we played with Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Browne, and what's that guy from the Youngbloods? Come on, Jesse
Colin Young, who just had a new record out.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I'd love to track that guy down. Boy, that guy could sing.
Yeah, it was great. So we did stuff like that. We played at the Washington Monument with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, I think it was, and Peter, Paul, and Mary. And it was really interesting because it was the day that Jimmy Carter was president, and they had a failed attempt to rescue. Remember the helicopter crash?
Yeah, the Iranian hostages.
The vibes was terrible in that town. That was what we arrived in. But we did it. We did a great gig. So we did a lot of those kind of things. We played with Graham Nash, and I can't think of all of them. But anyway, we really hooked onto something with that. And we played, we opened for the Go-Go's in New York City. That was one of our first really pay gigs, because we had gone from being the farm band, kind of just, waving the communal flag.
Sure.
And then this was more of like people didn't even know we were from the farm,
Yeah, right.
And so we opened for the Go-Go's in New York City. And then we got an invite to play over at Glastonbury and Stonehenge in England. So we went over there, and I can't remember who was on the bill. Remember, let's see, Curtis Mayfield, UB40, Fun Boy 3. Anyway, that was what was going on at the time. That was 1983.
Hey, before I forget, how can people track down the history of the farm band, the NRC, the farm, and more? Is there a Facebook page, website? What do you got?
I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could look it up. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I saw a thing when I was...
all kinds of stuff out there.
Yeah, when I was starting to think about tracking you down for the radio show, which I have for years, so I'm really excited to have Walt Rabideau on tonight, was there's stuff, there's a great... some sort of documentary on YouTube that I saw about the farm, but I saw you guys playing, and I go, I think those two guys are from Virginia. Chalmers with Skinner and Hell, long hair. I go, I have to, we still have a few minutes left, Walt, but I got to tell you, as someone who's a little less than 10 years younger than you, I've had such a respect for this band from my hometown that went on to do really on the cusp of the whole hippie dream and really walk the talk, rock the rock, and did your thing, man. It's so incredible.
Well, thank you. Great.
So with the NRC, so then how long did the NRC go on, Walt, and then what happened to Walt Rabideau? Where'd you end up?
Well, the band lasted from 1980 to 1983, but by this time the community was struggling with keeping, it's any family, it's food, shelter, and clothing.
Right.
And if you have a hard time with that, then you have to figure it out. So I think the communal way of doing things had kind of run its course. And people were starting to leave and said, well, even though I said I was going to stay here forever and spend my life here, I think that I'm going to go back into the world now and take whatever I've learned and go on my own. And that's kind of what I did. I had a 9 and a 10-year-old, and once we announced that the farm band was splitting up and we were leaving, it was kind of like that was the writing on the wall, that because it was like an end of an institution or something.
Yeah.
Things are changing. Anyway, that's when I took my family out to California and reestablished my life, and then David moved out, and the bass player from the farm band, we were all together out here, so we played as the Reflectors. We had a power trio. I think we played for like 18 years.
Wow!
And done a couple of recorded some home recordings. And we had a backer for a while who bought us equipment and all kinds of stuff. So we just kept playing when we were out here, And then my other two members ended up moving away. So now it's just me in my little home studio.
Well, we're going to listen to an original song by Walt Rabideau next. Walt, I want to thank you so much. This has been so insightful. We've got to get drummer Dave Chalmers on the phone and see if the three of us talking, if that can't dredge up some memories that aren't coming to you tonight, but I look forward to one of these days meeting you in person when we can all travel and do that thing that we used to do before the pandemic hit. But thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been an incredibly fun interview for me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it too. It's fun talking to you. Yeah.
Give my best to Dave Chalmers, and Walt, we will talk with you soon.
Okay, sounds great, man.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show was produced by Paul Metsa, engineered by Patrick Lilia. We'd like to thank our guest, Walt Rabideau, with those great stories, starting to play in the Iron Range, ended up playing at Stonehenge and all points in between. I've got a new record out, re-release of my record, Whistling Past the Graveyard. Original songs, 11 of them, and 6 bonus tracks. Track that down at paulmetsa.com. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.